Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. We are protected against the wickedness and snares of the devil. Saint Michael, may God rebuke him. We humbly pray. And do thou against the heavenly hosts by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who walk throughout the world seeking million souls, seeking million souls. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Defend us in battle. Defend us in battle. Amen. Amen. Amen.
It seems we desperately needed that, because after last night's display, I don't know if that's gonna, like, I don't know what else to do, quite frankly, because it was horrific. Absolutely horrific. Hello, chat. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we're going to get right into, we're not going to waste a whole lot of time, but I would like to introduce the panel that sits before you. So first up, Father Miller, how are you doing?
Doing good. So I'm in vacation mode. I'm leaving for Minnesota tomorrow to go fish.
Yay, that's it. You know what? That's what we need to fish. We need to go fishing, because it's I need a break from whatever that was, for sure. And thank you for being here.
Well, you made the mistake of watching it.
Oh God. Well, it's the Olympics. I didn't expect to tune in and see.
I haven't intentionally watched the Olympics in probably almost 20 years.
See, I love, like, the opening ceremony was always one of my favorite parts, and then swim, because I was a competitive swimmer, so I love swimming, and I have cousins who run track, so track was another favorite of mine. And then, of course, the gymnastics is just amazing. But after that, I will not be watching any of it. So, Father Miller, thank you for being here. And, of course, the lovely, the beautiful, the talented, the incredible Miss Martin Muses. How are you doing, love?
Oh, well, shouldn't this have been expected? We just got done doing a historic Eucharistic procession across the nation. I participated in it from my part of the world. We're from four corners of the United States. Mm-hmm. And then how many thousands? 50,000 plus 100,000?
Yes, yeah. The final count of... The final count of lay people, so just lay people, that doesn't include the clergy and the all of that. 53,000 lay Catholics were there.
Yeah, witnessing in the streets of Indianapolis with the Eucharistic Lord. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, Satan is going to try to do a counterattack.
Of course, absolutely, and it's devastating that this is being allowed. And my mentions are full of people. So there's a lot going on Twitter about all of this, guys, but we're going to go through as much of it as quickly as we can, because we're going to try and keep this to an hour and 15 minutes, nothing a whole lot more, because everybody's got stuff to do. And this was very much a last minute, hey, can you guys kind of make it sort of deal? So, and we want Father Miller to go fishing.
Well, I just got last minute packing to do.
Story of life, right? So, to get right into it, anybody that is unfamiliar, the 2024 Summer Olympics are being hosted in Paris this year. And the opening ceremony was last night. And there have been some, I haven't seen anybody have like a middle of the road reaction to this. It's either they are vehemently against it or they are like for it. They're like, it's France, it's avant-garde, this is art, like, you need to get over yourselves. Christianity isn't the only religion in the world. No, but it is the largest. 2 billion Christians. And of those 2 billion Christians, 1 billion are Catholic, roughly. Now, whether they're devout, practicing, falling away from the church is irrelevant. Those are the numbers we have to go by, based on all of the polls that they like to throw up all over the freaking place. So, first, we're going to meet the person in charge of what we witnessed last night. So, 5 reasons to love Paris 2024. Probably not. Innovators. This is from The Sun. This is under their sports section. Innovators. Who are Thomas Jolly and Terry Rayblow, duo behind the Paris Olympics ceremony. All right. Let's get into, so you would imagine these individuals are they are at the top
the way
of
they
their,
spell Terry.
They are at the top of their game. They have all this experience. They know what they are doing, and it is it's the Olympics. This is not a small thing. This isn't like and I'm not knocking, by the way. I am not knocking Cheryl down the street who runs a party planning business out of her home. That's amazing. She would have done a better job. Cheryl down the road would have done a better job. Okay, here we go. The pair want to project a newer image for Paris. This should have already been red flag, red flag, red flag, right? Because anytime we see this type of wording, we know they're running cover. All eyes are on Paris as the Olympic Games 2024 begins with the opening ceremony. But who are the 2 visionary men behind the opening event? This is Thomas Jolly. Incorporates his own experience into his work. Terry, pictured standing in the back, has been a key part of organizing the ceremony. They sort of gloss over him. Ready for this? Thomas Jolly is the artistic director for Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He wants the ceremony to reflect the vibrant young spirit of Paris instead of the classic romanticized version that you see in films. So what Paris is known for, classic beauty, classic architecture, the romantic city, it's literally called the City of Love. He didn't want to do that. He wanted that younger, that modern audience. As this will be one of the most diverse Olympic Games, with many athletes being queer, he wants the opening ceremony to reflect this. He told British Vogue that the opening ceremony will be a success only if everyone feels represented in it. Well, guess what, Thomas? I don't feel represented. I feel mocked, belittled, betrayed, and quite frankly, send the lightning bolts, send the rain at this point. Like, and the crazy thing is, even if God had struck them with lightning, they still wouldn't believe. That is how in denial and entrenched they are in this ideology. That is how deep this runs. Here's Thomas's experience. This is the individual who is the artistic director for the entire thing. Are you ready for his qualifications?
Sure.
Thomas is a queer actor, comedian, and theater director who incorporates his own experience into his work. He was raised in a small village in Normandy and now lives in Paris with his partner, also named Thomas. He told British Vogue that they're Thomas squared. That's his qualifications. He's queer, he's an actor, he's a comedian, and he's a theater director who self-inserts. He admits to it. He's proud of it. He put his own experience into his work.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We know that there are these awful people out there. but they were allowed to do this.
Yep.
That's where I'm thinking that the focus needs to be done, because you're always going to have horrendous people. But why are they the Olympics Committee? For example, it is very explicit in their rules that you're not allowed to, well, first of all, have displays of hate speech. You're not allowed to practice discrimination. You're not allowed to have political, religious, or what do they even say, like racial protests within there. All of that they're violating their own rules. So the Olympic Committee, whoever those people are, chose this person these people to do this.
Yep.
And they had to have approved it at every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And remember when I said they sort of gloss over Terry? You want to know? So we just read that whole spiel from Thomas, right? Do you want to hear what they have to say about Terry? Ready for
I
this?
don't know.
Here you go. He's organized. So he's in charge of the games themselves. So the running of the games, the Olympic flame route, the outfits, and medals, and even designs of the podiums. And what I thought when they said outfits, I thought he meant for the opening ceremony. No. He's talking about like this, like the actual game outfits, like what would be allowed for, because you know when they do like the track. He is that's all they have to say about him. He told fans to expect a surprise at the ceremony as it journeyed down the sign. Like, that's it. Which tells me this man's not queer, because they didn't spend 5 paragraphs talking about how amazing he is. So this is the individual, and this is another. So queer Olympic opening ceremony director wants everyone to feel represented. Here is him in makeup, I guess. This is Thomas Jolly. This is what he's about. And for anybody that is curious or wants to know what the opening ceremony, there was a lot, and it wasn't accidental. This was intentional. This was entirely intentional. When they tell you who they are, believe them. I believe it's this one. Okay, do we want to here's this one. Let's go ahead and see what the big outcry was. Oh wait. You can't.
Oh, gee.
They have disabled it. They're copyright striking people for showing the opening Olympics. Now, of course, I put up here.
Well, that's nothing really new, though. I mean, they're usually really strict on who can show
if it's clipped.
clips.
Yeah, but this was clipped. It didn't they were simply showing what was being done. And they weren't trying to like make money off of it or get engagement off of it. So we had to go to people who edited certain parts into the screen with it, right? So here, we're going to watch this really quick. You're only going to see the top part. You're only going to see the top part for just the briefest of moments. This was the 2014 Olympics, also in France. Or in Russia, excuse me. So this was the 2014 Olympics in Russia that you can kind of see right here. Okay, ready? Here we go. So what I have been informed of is this is supposed to be Mother Nature. Creation. That's supposed to be creation. Mother Nature.
It looks like a Smurf.
So gorgeous, beautiful ballet. Whatever this is. And we will get to an individual over in this section in just a minute.
Yeah. It's very much like the abomination that they did during the French Revolution at the altar of Notre Dame when they set up a institute as the goddess of reason.
Yep.
And did all sorts
Very
of blasphemies on that altar. Yeah.
Very much so. Satan needs France to fall because she is the oldest European daughter of the church, besides Rome. But this is what look at the difference. We have twerking, We have men pretending to be women. We have gyrating where they're throwing themselves all about. Meanwhile, we have this gorgeous, elegant, beautiful. The fact that these, like, the two of these put together is so jarring at how far. 10 years, guys. That's it.
Oh yeah.
10 years. I'm just I'm blown away. Like, look at it's a mockery. They're jutting out their chests. They're rolling over their butts. Like, I can't. This is the Olympic Games, guys. This is the Olympics. And then, of course, we have this. I am not sure what she is saying in French. So I took French for a couple years, haven't used it for a while. I don't actually know what was being sung right here, but I hated every second of it. And the fact that, and you'll get to hear this part a little bit later. So someone tried to say that was supposed to be like Marie Antoinette.
Oh yeah. Well, they did it outside of where she actually was held and essentially tortured for several years.
But they tried to do this as a depiction of, like, so it's supposed to be Marie Antoinette, and I was like, yeah, I got that part, like, it makes sense to me. And then they were like, but she is essentially supposed to be like a mistress of hell. That's why she's in red. She's supposed to be representing lust, and she's coming back for revenge. And I was like, I didn't get any of that. I said, I got that it's distasteful, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's just wild when you think about the previous like, look at how Russia is honoring their history and their excellence, and what, like, the Russian ballet, it is, that's what Russia's known for, just like insanely talented athletes and perfectionism. And then you have this trash. They hate themselves. Like,
well, and
sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it should be noted about Marie Antoinette that one of her last words in her last letter, her, if you will, confession, because they were killing all the priests. The priests were all being massacred, and all the Catholics were being massacred in the Vendée region. That she said, "I die in and of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church," and all the things about her being a SL with a unity and all that. There is no evidence that she was promiscuous or that she was anything but faithful to her husband and her children.
But that doesn't make
history is written by the victors. I mean, you look at how they portray the church in England after the Reformation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can see that in just about anything. Like, there are people who, like, very recently, Trump has already served as president, and people are like, if he gets reelected, then he's going to do all of these horrible, immoral, communist, anti-American things. And I was like, why would he have? I was like, there's no guarantee you get a second term. Like, why would he have waited to turn into a dictator in his second term? Like, and they're like, look at all these horrible things he did. And I was like, he's human. He makes mistakes. I disagree with a lot of them. And in fact, until he got targeted, is how I have to phrase it on YouTube. Till he got targeted, I was really on the fence about whether to vote for him or not. And then that happened. And then he got back up. Like, his reaction to those events, I was like, yep, that's who I'm voting for. That's a leader. That's
well, and a lot of the things. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
A lot of the things that he didn't actually do too. I cannot tell you how many times people have told me that. And I'm not even necessarily a defender of Donald Trump, but it's like, hey, even your worst enemy, you must speak the truth about, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a to touch on nerd culture a bit here. There is a I believe it's Batman the Animated Series. There's a scene where all like some of his greatest villains from his oh gosh, why can't I think of what it's called? It's not a theater. Help me. What is the word? Villain.
Rogues Gallery.
Thank you. From his rogues gallery. They were the jury, and Batman got put on trial, and they still they still chose to acquit him because telling the truth was important. Like they still they couldn't lie on him. They were like, no, like we've seen the evidence, we've seen we know the facts, and we're evil, but we're like the fact that they're like, yeah, we're evil, but we're not liars, we're not corrupt. Like this is a jury duty. The fact that villains of Batman can get it right lets you know just how fictitious that actually was. Because denial is a hell of a drug. We've said that many times. But this is just, it gets so much worse, guys. So the big scene that really got everybody to focus and notice is about to come up down here. Because what they did, this is a direct mockery of the Last Supper. It is a direct...
How do you make that transition? How do you go from like the Bastille to that?
I wasn't sure. Go ask Thomas Jolly, I guess.
All of it is blasphemy. Well, Satan was a liar from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And remember, we need to focus on the fact, too, that we're not just dealing with the Last Supper, which, of course, is the Last Supper, but also that is one and the same thing as the most holy Eucharist.
Absolutely. And so we are now looking at drag queens and transvestites, and I don't even, I don't know if any of these people are, transgenders. I have absolutely...
Well,
no
and if you
idea.
had your mouse down, there's a kid in there.
Oh yeah, that's what I was. So there's a child right here, and this individual right here, this man, we're gonna get to his wardrobe malfunction. I think it was intentional. Like there's no way that it wasn't. But take note. Look at this individual right here. Clock what this person's wearing, and look who is directly in front of this person that he is going to bend down and whisper to. Here we go. Ready?
Well,
watch him. Watch what he is doing. He bends down. Okay, he's whispering to this child. This is an entire mockery of the Last Supper. All of it.
Yeah.
From having a I don't know if this is a man or a woman, but it is irrelevant. It's blasphemy from its core. All of these individuals, it's just blasphemy.
When you said, look at what he's about to do, I was about when I say, you're going to lose your channel, because you know what I'm thinking of. Obviously, you're not going to show that, though. The fact that he is actually exposed, and in most countries, that's a crime.
Yeah, not in France. And I am going to show it. Oh, well, I'll clip it after. But so this is the scene that got a lot of people heated for obvious reasons. So France is official. It's Catholic, but I use air quotes and I say that very lightly. How could a Catholic nation, like the reaction from French men and women has been, I mean, the backlash has been insane. They have been getting flooded with calls. The Olympic Council has been getting flooded with calls. The French offices have been getting flooded, rightly so. Look at this absolute degeneracy. And this is only 10 years ago. And look at how beautiful and graceful and respectful Russia is of their heritage and what they're known for. And then you look at France, and this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing to their own history, to themselves. It's insane. And on that note, hello, John F. Trent. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. This is just absolutely sick and disgusting. I think the French need to literally become like Nineveh and put on sackcloth and do reparations and ashes in order for this disgusting blasphemy that they've done. Or I thank God that God is all merciful, right? And He is not. It's like with Abraham, right? How many people are still there? There are still good people in France. You're talking about these people flooding it. because this is just absolutely disgusting. It's so evil.
It's pure evil on display with no shame, and they and you have people were coming into my mentions and stuff like that, and they were like, oh my god, like, we said this at the beginning, either people are viscerally against it and recognize it for the evil and blasphemy that it is, or they are completely supportive of it. Like, people are just like, oh my gosh, like, you really do want transgenders to self-delete. And I'm like, no, they're openly mocking Jesus Christ and the Last Supper and my faith. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be constantly abused and gaslit by you because you think you have some moral superiority because there's less people that identify as queer than there are practicing Catholics in the world. Like, you're not going to guilt me like that.
If we want to find a little bit of a positive, is the fact that it's so upfront. It's clearly, this is being like, it's global. It's obviously in our front. We're seeing people that aren't Christians are noticing this and how evil it is, pointing it out, calling it out, saying how absolutely disgusting it is. So I think that it's so obvious you can't ignore it now. So I think that is something that that there is some good that can come from that, because we can see people are seeing, like, how can you not see this? It is so blatant. It is so obvious. It is so evil. You can't ignore that. And I think there is a lot to that. And I am seeing a lot of people who aren't Christians, who aren't Catholics, who are calling this out. Yep. I got my
yeah, and it's I'm not going to call anyone out, but like, people have been reaching out to me in DMs and even in my comments, and they're like, I was like, my mom made me go to church, my dad made me go to church as a kid, and I haven't gone back, and I thought it was like, I thought this was stupid, and I don't know where it went, but someone, they put this perfectly. They were like, I was never a believer in my life. Like, I've never been a believer. And he said, but I realized something. They do believe. They believe Jesus Christ is real. They know he's real. And they are doing everything they can to discredit and shame him because they know the truth. And they want power and dominion. They do not want to receive his free gifts and to know that true love. They want they have that lust for power and that pride that Satan had. And then this, oh man, if this didn't get you. So now I'm going to bring something back up on screen, and we're going to discuss it before I show you something that they're using to, I guess, justify where this stage is. That's a golden calf. Golden cow. That's a calf. That's a golden calf, right? For those that don't know, I am assuming that people are familiar with, I guess, this little thing called the 10 Commandments. I'm not really sure. I would hope that people are familiar with it. And if none of the other things had been there, I might have bought the excuse that is in the community notes. But guys, we know what the golden calf represents. We know what that means in our, not just in Christianity, but in Judaism as well. Right? So we know what this stands for. We know that this is literally false idols. All those people who are screeching at Catholics like, "Oh my gosh, idol worship. You're worshiping Mary, like false prophets, false gods. You think Mary is God." Like, no, that's not at all what we think. We don't think she's Jesus. We don't think she's God. We don't think she's any of that. We understand her importance, and like, we can get into Mary in a whole other stream. This, had nothing else been there, I would have bought the excuse that we're about to read. But with all the other blatant imagery and mockery and blasphemy, you cannot let this go. Here is how they tried to justify this calf. According to community notes, the sculpture of a bull, not a calf. Okay, that's what they're The Sculpture of a Bull, Not a Calf, and a Deer by Paul Huvet, made in the 1930s, has always been located there near the Trocadero Fountain. The scene for the Olympics opening ceremony was simply built around it. Okay, but they chose to build it around that fountain. They chose to build it in that spot. They chose to build it with this being prominent on top of all of the other mockery, blasphemy, idolatry. This isn't an accident. There's no way. Guys, if anyone's trying to gaslight you into thinking that somehow this just happened to be there, it's not true.
Well, it was designed to be front and center like this. Now, there is some good point. I've just been interested a little bit with Steve saying in the audience. I agree. We can sit here in America saying what we say, going on the internet, but we're not on the grounds in France. Like, I can't control what is going on in France. So my question is, where are the French people? Why aren't they in the streets right now peacefully protesting? Where are all the Catholics? I've been to Lourdes where there's 10,000 people every night praying the rosary. And that is why I am frustrated. Because again, I can't tell the French what to do. But why are the French not doing anything?
I legitimately I am drafting a letter to Rome, because what else do you do? Like, at this point, the fact that, at least to my knowledge, this hasn't been. I've seen and we've seen. I believe I have them pulled up, but a couple of bishops have come out publicly to.
Bishop Aaron's one of them.
Yeah, Bishop Aaron had a good one.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, but he's an American bishop. I mean, where are the French bishops?
And everything like that. Rome has been silent. Like, I've heard nothing from the Pope. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing from the Pope. And to me, this seems like it would be I don't know, at the very least come out and say, pray 10 Saint Michael the Archangel prayers and Hail Marys and Our Fathers, like, at something, anything. You know what I mean? But
I was just going to say, I mentioned in the chat, you look at the Charlie Hebdo attacks from almost 10 years ago, how people reacted to that till it's just frustrating.
It really is
frustrating.
So I will say that I would assume that Rome is probably doing an investigation, and they are going to try and make sure what they have before they issue a statement. I expect a statement to come from Rome.
I do
we'll
too,
see
but I was
what it is, but
yeah,
but it's not hard. Like, we see that Bishop Aaron can go out there, do a video almost immediately. I've seen lots of priests on my feed condemn this. It's so obvious that it's easy to say, like, this is absolutely wrong, condemn this, and then and actually at least condemn it to begin with, and then kind of maybe start organizing, like we're talking about, try and rally these French bishops to rally their people. And I mean, honestly, like, I think a Eucharistic procession would be a fantastic thing to just kind of do through the streets of Paris. Obviously, I know we see people in the chat saying that Paris is a kind of an occupied city at this point,
right,
due to their immigration policies. But you know that there are still lots of
but
Catholics
how are the bishops of France? I mean, Germany's bishops are pretty much in schism.
I understand that, but you know that there has to be at least maybe one or two. Like, it doesn't even have to be a bishop. I mean, the priests are still pastors are still shepherds of their flock, and they need to have the courage to do that. And it's, I think the laity can encourage them as well. Have the courage. Contact your priests, contact your bishops. Like, I mean, maybe they are doing something. I don't know. I'm not on the ground. I'm not in France. I'm not in Paris. So I don't know. Maybe maybe they're doing other things. Maybe they're not wanting to have a public display. Well, maybe it's like, come to adoration, adore our Lord in adoration, do reparations on that sense. And obviously we've seen that, but I do think that we need to have the courage to be out there in public. And I think
looks like the French Bishops Conference did release a statement. I'm trying to find it.
Yes, they did. But Rome has not. And so that's what I'm saying. Like this, all it would have taken from Rome was the mockery of our Lord Jesus Christ at the Holy Supper and the most holy Eucharist that it represents shall not stand. We are looking further into this to decide to determine exactly what happened. Like,
well, and not only that,
that's
sorry.
it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, sorry, you kind of paused. Well, here's the deal: is not only just that, because I mean, blasphemy is wrong, but also we start fighting smart people. Also, this is also a violation of plurality. You know what I mean? This is a violation of inclusion.
The
This is a
Olympic spirit.
violation of the Olympics' own rules too. I mean, yeah, because sometimes people will shut down. Well, that's just blasphemous to you. But of course, they need to speak to the faithful on this. But also, they need to point out, like, listen, this is an ordered society. You claim you're supposed to be inclusive. You are not being inclusive at all. And
No.
I'm a little bit disappointed because I've seen Chariots of Fire 10, 100,000 million and 100 times. Remember the dude who wouldn't run on Sunday? Real man. And he ended up dying pretty much as a martyr in World War II in camps.
Yep.
Why hasn't Christian athletes come home?
Well,
saying, I'm done. I mean, I walk out when I see that crap, when I see people spit in my eye, when they crap all over my religion, if I'm at an event, I walk out. Come home. That would be a start, saying if you all aren't going to follow your own rules, be gone. And they would be heroes. And I'm a little bit frustrated, Francis, because maybe if they'd have performed a Latin mass, he would have condemned it. But I'll leave that there and cool down for 5 seconds.
So I mean, so Rome did. I just read in the Arlington Catholic Herald. I'm in the Diocese of Arlington. They actually approved the Latin Mass to continue. They gave us another 2 years on
fantastic.
that. So,
good.
So
Hopefully they give us more. All right. So are you guys ready for how much that spectacle of blasphemy cost? Are you ready? World reacts to Paris opening Olympics. I'm embarrassed for France. The rumors about the opening ceremony all suggested that the $1.5 billion spectacle was going to blow the world away. The rumors were very wrong. Yeah, no kidding. The world saw something very different than a glamorous, glorious expose. The Paris Games officially opened in something that resembled a High School Musical night recital on Saturday morning, with athletes somewhat overshadowed by the colorful River Seine spectacle. More than 9,000 athletes floating down the Olympic host city's iconic river on 85 barges and boats. So they can't, it's not easy, unless you want to jump into the Seine, which I don't recommend. Athletes have been parading down a 6-kilometer stretch of the winding river from the bridge, and it was hit with viewers as the rugby league legend Matty Johns summed it up into perfection. An underwhelming start, but built very well. Not sure what to do about the opening ceremony on the water, but you do what you do. The French, they're oppositional. So, like, the Olympic athletes are too scared to condemn this. And everybody's like, but Lady Gaga they're trying to, like, take away from everything else. They're like, look at how beautiful it was. They are not bringing up, I mean, it's insane.
Well, what is that even supposed to be?
So that is allegedly not supposed to be the Pale Rider. That is supposed to be the French goddess where the cyan gets its name from. And I am purposefully saying the river's name wrong.
It's clearly done for. It's clearly symbolic. Whatever they say it is, I don't believe them. They're liars. These people are lies. Satan is the prince of lies. So
I'm going to sound horrible here, but it would be nice if the apparition of Joan of Arc would appear with her sword.
Yeah, that'd be real nice. Like, so they're focusing. Do you notice that nothing about what people are outraged over, they're not touching on it. They're trying to say, who is this? This is the Australian news.
Okay.
But it's funny because the French paper, you can't find anything. And people, like, normal people are saying they're embarrassed for France. Yeah, news.com.au. They're embarrassed for France. They find it shameful, the degeneracy. You can't tell me that's not the Pale Rider. You've lost your mind. There's no way that is not the Pale Rider. I refuse to believe that, because everything else that you've done, but that one thing isn't true. Seriously? And you know what? To Miss Martin's point about athletes speaking up, this athlete is not participating in the games, but thank God for him, because it was we need more men like this. Harrison Butker slams Paris Olympics parody of The Last Supper. Kansas City Chiefs kicker slams Paris Olympics opening ceremony as after the performance included drag queens, among other performers, parodying, like not mocking, not blaspheming, parodying The Last Supper. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. That was his statement. Like, when they asked him, they came up and asked him, like, what he thought. And he was like, yeah, he put it on Instagram. He said, this is crazy. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. And the fact that he came out and said that, he's gotten so much backlash. And so the French are upset because their history has been mocked. Their culture has been mocked. But they're being mostly relatively silenced by the media. Like, the media is not showing any of it. So you have to go dig on social media, specifically X, to try and find actual real reactions. So that's where we stand at the current moment. That's with the reaction of, they're saying, oh, the world is embarrassed. Like, no, we're pissed. Especially, I know that Miss Martin Muses got tagged in this as well. Did you guys hear about this? Brazilian surfer at the Olympics had to redo the boards painted with Christ the Redeemer because Olympic Committee prohibits religious manifestations. So this Olympic athlete had to repaint his surfboards. But this is fine.
He should have withdrawn. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially after that mockery last night.
Well,
and it just keeps getting worse. Like, so this,
I think that's really what needs to happen. You need to see Christian athletes just en masse leave these games. It's these games are clearly not.
I was saying before, sorry, John. God. I was saying before we went live, I probably haven't intentionally watched the Olympics probably since London 2012. It's just not fun anymore. As I sent a lady Gravemaster, I remember the Los Angeles Olympics as a kid, the Rocket Man that flew in.
I've got, yeah.
I mean, it's just not, it's not fun anymore.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's
not aspirational.
Well, I mean, it used to be about the amateurs, and now it's like everybody's a pro sport. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'll disagree. I was actually looking forward to seeing like Katie Ledecky just dominate in swimming and seeing her kind of achieve that greatness that we want. That what is the virtue of magnanimity that we have, and seeing our athletes do that. And I was actually looking forward to that. And I won't be watching it at all. I won't be watching it in my household at all. My wife was disappointed when I told her we aren't going to watch it because of this. Because we did want to see some of that, the swimming, the track and field, see Simone Biles do her gymnastics. My wife really likes that. So, but we're not going to be watching it anymore because this is just absolutely disgusting. It's blasphemous, and it's evil.
Yeah, absolutely. It is entirely evil. It's pure evil. It's on display. And so, do we remember? I told you guys, clock what this guy was wearing. This was the guy who had bent down.
I'm not looking.
And
I don't want to see this.
Don't zoom in.
He's by a child. Okay, clock what that dude was wearing. Remember when I said that? Here is why. Yes, thank you, Adam Krigler. Dude had his nut hanging out because this person has some things to say. I don't know who Courtney Nill is, but yeah, she's an interesting individual. And I will just briefly. I'm just going to briefly pause. And then we're going to continue to scroll. Hopefully you saw that.
I think Adam's caption there was all we needed.
Yeah. If you as an American Christian are deeply offended by transgender performers at the Olympics, you need to get a grip. I, for one, am grateful to live in a country where I can freely practice my religion. A lot of athletes competing in these games don't have that luxury.
Well, it's a straw man because no one is, I mean, transgender, whatever, fine. We know they're there. We know they're going to be in performances that this is far beyond it. We're talking about we're talking about a crime. And it's, here's the thing.
I gotta say,
a child was standing in front of him. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. A child was standing in front of him, and this is this bitch's response. I'm sorry. I know. Father, I will go to confession. I'm so angry. I'm so angry.
I was going to say, I agree with Disparu in the chat. Send in the squirrels. At least they're more entertaining.
Yeah.
It's like the fact that she's not just Christian, she's specifically coming after American Christians. Because here's the thing. A lot of athletes competing in these games don't have the luxury of freely practicing their religion. You know what else other Christians don't have the luxury of as they're being slaughtered in Africa and the Middle East? By the way, Christianity was in the Middle East roughly 410 years before Islam. So spare me that nonsense about Islam was there first as well. Absolute. The lies of the enemy are entrenched.
We need another Charles the Hammer Martel.
Something, because Christians are being slaughtered in South America. They're being slaughtered in Mexico. They're being slaughtered in Africa, in Asia, and in parts of Europe. They're being slaughtered.
I was going to say, Lady Gravemaster, they're being slaughtered in France. This was actually the 10-year anniversary, I think, or the 8-year anniversary of the priest that was in Normandy that was unalived before his congregation. In America, we have had 400 terrorist attacks against Catholic churches since about 2022 and 2021. Not one word from you know who, and they're allowed to get away with it.
Yeah.
And we have no recourse. We cannot take them according to the law because they drop the charges. If we protest, they throw us in jail and they kill us. This is the lie. This is
absolutely. And it's the thing that is this too, like, so we've got this. What to know about the ruined Gothic cathedral hit by fire? Fire broke out. Fire. Yeah, hit by fire. So this is for those who are confused or unsure. You're not. That is Notre Dame. That is Notre Dame. Like one of the most iconic, recognizable symbols of Catholicism and its beauty. And when you so everybody's like, well, if God tore down the Tower of Babel, why does he allow these other churches? Like, why is it so decadent? Why is it so over the top? The difference is Babel was them trying to prove they didn't need God and they could reach God if they wanted to. They were like, we can reach you, God. And they're like, we don't need you anymore. So God tore them down, struck them dumb, and made them all speak in different tongues, which is why Pentecost was so important, because when the holy fire, when the tongues of flame came down, everybody could speak like they could before Babel, that were blessed with the tongues. And so when people are like, oh yeah, I speak in tongues, it's not ridiculous psychobabble, like with just whatever you feel comes to mind. It's actually the gift of being able to speak to anyone about Jesus and the gospel and spreading his message that way. And so, like, these people know just enough to prove that they don't know anything. They take bits and they take sound clips and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna, like, oh yeah, absolutely, Jesus isn't real and God is, God's not real and magic man in the sky, all of these things. And yet, and they say that we're the hateful ones and that we're the prideful ones and we're the spiteful ones. The difference was this was built to honor God. This was built for people to come and worship the Lord and see the beauty of heaven on earth, possibly through the Eucharist. Not the Tower of Babel trying to prove that we didn't need God. The Olympic Games are cursed at this point. Like, they are cursed. that this entire Summer Games, pray for all their souls, because anybody that competes in these games, I would think that Poland would have immediately withdrew. That's what I would have thought. I can't imagine Polish athletes continuing after that.
Well,
But-
I'm going to keep my eyes on it and see if they do. And another point to go along with what you said, remember in the Old Testament that the Lord, yes, Babel was bad, but the temple was good. You see what he ordered the Jews to do. So I think that people take their own prejudices when they're looking at what the Catholic churches do with these great cathedrals. And when you said Notre Dame, that was Notre Dame de Rouen. All of the cathedrals in France are generally called Our Lady. Like there is Our Lady of Notre Dame in Strasbourg, and Lady Daughter in Rouen, and the Notre Dame Cathedral, when that was destroyed, the big one in Paris. So
they've rebuilt it.
Yeah, they've rebuilt it, but they can never rebuild it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's impossible to rebuild it, but it's my goodness gracious.
Oh man, my French is very rusty. But so this John's over here doing the Lord's work. Reaction to the CEF and Holy Games about the ceremony.
I don't speak French either. So
yeah, the opening of the games.
Yeah, opening of the games. So what I can read, God, it's been a long time. Hold on. Listen, I took 4 years of French in high school, but that was like 15 years ago. I've not really used it.
If it was actually like I could have copy and pasted it into DeepL and we could have gotten like a good translation.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say because of the sorry, I was starting to translate it and then you moved it, so never mind.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So see, during the participation of the Games of Paris, the Project Holy Games mobilized to for 3 years for the Nombre Catholique Rassemblé pour faire.
A number of Catholic assemblies have happened. In the fervor of sport, so that would translate to like fever of sport, sportsmanship, like athletics.
Yeah, sportsmanship, and the popular Games of Paris. A magnificent event was organized for Notre. And then the Semi-Dernier. Yeah, so in general, they're making a big long statement. Where do they get to the money line?
Crayon. Air soirée, marvelous moments, rich and enlightenment. Okay, here we go. During the ceremony, Maleficent, evil, includes scenes of derision from that mocked Christianity. C'est no de très profanement. Okay, so this is where they're at. So even though there were scenes of moments of beauty and rich emotion that served universal people, like that's not a direct translation, but this is rough, guys. It's been years. The ceremony maliciously included scenes that
mocked
the Christian religion and faith, and profanity.
Deplorable and profanity and. Yeah, so they're giving some strong language there.
Yeah. So
I plugged in that C'était Cérémonie line, and it says the ceremony unfortunately included scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, which we deeply regret.
Yeah.
We deeply regret.
I know, gee whiz.
The translation I'm reading.
Okay.
Do you have the translation?
Yeah, do you
have
it?
I sent the article.
Here we go. Okay.
But I don't know.
They're condemning it. I mean, they're saying it.
Opening had offered wonderful moments of beauty, joy, rich emotion. Hey, I got several of those words. Cool. And universally praised. A statement from the French Bishops' Conference said, however, the ceremony unfortunately included scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, which we deeply regret. While they did not refer to specific scenes, see, they didn't even call out the specific scenes. The ceremony featured a segment entitled Festivity, which began with a group sat at a table, including several drag queens, which was reminiscent of the Last Supper, the final meal Jesus is said to have taken with his apostles. We think of all Christians across the continents who were hurt by the excesses and provocation of certain scenes. We hope they understand that the Olympic celebration extends far beyond the ideological biases of a few artists.
That
What?
wasn't bad.
No, that's
the
weak.
artist with a billion views.
No.
This is why
Well,
the Catholic Church is struggling, because we don't have strong leadership. How is the bishop's reaction less, I don't know, like less than a kicker? And I'm not mocking him. Like, obviously he's a Catholic man, but like, how is it less than a lay person? Like, what is happening right now? Like, this is the problem. The leadership in the church does not have the fire of the Holy Spirit underneath them. When Marco Rubio, John again doing the Lord's work over here. When Marco Rubio,
that was Father Miller did that one.
that was Father Miller that did that one. Listen, the last time there will be scoffers who will live according to their own godless desires. Jude 1:18. Like, why are politicians and professional football players having a more fiery, spirited defense of Catholicism and Christianity and our Lord Jesus Christ and the Holy Eucharist and his apostles than the Bishops' Council? What is going on? Like, Catholic Church.
Again, it's basically Europe is like 20 years ahead of America and how far it's fallen.
Okay.
Again, you just look at what's going on in France, not just this stuff, but I mean, you look at Germany. Again, Germany is in schism right now, especially with that whole thing last year with the Senate.
Yeah.
Europe is dying. I mean, you look at the attendance of Mass in Europe, it's not good.
Yeah. Well, and it's being allowed to happen, because that's always my kind of frustration. And I wanted to clarify. When I said not bad, I thought they were going to continue, because I was like, oh, good. They're talking about it's just a few artists and this is ridiculous. But if that's the end of it, then that's the end of us. Because you see, I can't have the bully pulpit that the Holy Father has. And if he won't do anything, well, we all know what we can do. We can pray, we can admonish, but I think that this is a great tragedy of the failure of our leadership, because where are the leaders doing something about it?
They're too scared. They're too, so like.
But the Pope,
I
he's talking about, things like going on in schism. He is more than happy to accuse people of schism when they're coming from another direction. But for some reason, it's just quite all right if you're coming from a different direction.
Because for whatever reason, these people, like, listen, I actually was very much in disagreement with Eric July and Dan Bask and a few others who were like, they want you dead. Your compassion and tolerance, they're going to use it against you. Like, you are playing the game with both hands tied behind your back, and they will stab you in the chest the second they have an opportunity. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I think that they just very much like, we need to pray, we need to fast, we need to, we can't just abandon them to we just can't abandon them like that. And I'll still pray for them because I have to, but this is how people get callous. This is how people, like, why should I tolerate this when a surfer can't have image of Christ the Redeemer on his surfboard? Like, why is this okay? But the Israeli team isn't allowed to wear yellow ribbons for the hostages that are still.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to wear yellow ribbons for the hostages.
Yeah, which is consistent with their rules, but they broke their rules here.
They broke their own rules. So you know what? F them. I'm like, the Olympic Committee has lost the freaking plot. So think about the response that we just read, and now look at again. I'm gonna go back to this psycho lady's like. I'm great. I'm thankful I can freely practice my religion. What about all of the Christians who can't say anything against this because they're going to get beheaded? They'll get decapitated. Right? So think about what we just read, and now let's look at this response, okay? This is Bishop Robert Barron. Here's his response. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
This is Bishop Barron. Just a few days ago, I was in Indianapolis for the marvelous celebration of the Eucharistic Congress, 50,000 Catholics coming together to worship the Lord and celebrate the real presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. So I come from that experience, and I come home, and I love the Olympics. So I turn on the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. What do I see now? And it's in Paris, France, a city I love. I spent 3 years as a doctoral student there. What do I see but this gross mockery of the Last Supper? And I won't describe it any further. Just go online. It's gone viral. You can see it. But this France felt evidently, as it's trying to put its best cultural foot forward, the right thing to do is to mock this very central moment in Christianity where Jesus, at his Last Supper, gives his body and blood in anticipation of the cross. And so it's presented, though, as this gross, sort of flippant mockery. France, which used to be called the eldest daughter of the church, Paris, that gave us Thomas Aquinas taught there, and Vincent de Paul was there, King Louis IX, St. Louis. France has sent Catholic missionaries all over the world. France, whose culture, and I mean the honoring of the individual and of human rights and of freedom, is grounded very much in Christianity, felt the right thing to do was to mock the Christian faith. A question I would pose, we all know the answer to it. Would they ever have dared mock Islam in a similar way? Would they ever have dreamed of mocking in this gross, public way, a scene from the Quran? As I say, we all know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, folks, what's interesting here is this deeply secularist postmodern society knows who its enemy is. They're naming it, and we should believe them. They're telling us who they are. We should believe them. Furthermore, we Christians, we Catholics, should not be sheepish. We should resist. We should make our voices heard.
Okay, look at that. He was not angry, like over here, fired up, but he isn't. He's calm. He's effective. He's direct. He's calling out what it is. He's calling out how they reject their own history, their own culture, everything that made them who they are. I mean, St. Thomas Aquinas is known as the doctor of the church. This is insane to me that we got such a milquetoast response from the bishops in France.
I'm not surprised.
And so that was Father Robert Barrett. This is Father Strickland, or Father Bishop Strickland, forgive me. Here's his statement. The bigotry toward Christians and the blasphemy of Jesus Christ, God's divine Son, on display at the Olympics is a new low for our human community. Shame on those who produce this mockery, shame on the Olympic Committee, and shame on the nation of France for allowing it. This tarnishes what should be the noble celebration of sport and competition. I urge the athletes not to run for the fading crown of worldly acclaim. Instead, run for the crown that does not fade, eternal life in Jesus Christ, the risen Son of God.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. They've got to refuse. If they don't refuse, if they still run, if they still ignore it and put their heads in the sand, then what can we do? They're allowing it.
They are. They're allowing it. And it's under the guise of, well, turn the other cheek. This is Christian compassion. Well, that's not very Catholic of you. Jesus flipped tables and cracked bullwhips when they made a mockery of his Father's house. Righteous anger is not the same thing as wrath, and they are very difficult to discern. That's why you have to pray. That's why you have to, you really have to dig deep and clear your mind and say, is this vengeful wrath, or is this actual divine justice type of righteous anger that I'm feeling? Because Jesus never sinned. So when people are like, oh, that the temple is the one time Jesus sinned. No, he didn't. No, he did not. We do not tolerate sin. You cannot tolerate evil. This is no different than when Satan was cast out of heaven. Why would you allow Satan to continue to remain in heaven when he took a third of the hosts and they willfully turned against God and attempted to destroy everything he created? Because they were insulted. Like, Satan was literally, everybody go read your Bibles. Satan was insulted that he would have to be less loved and less admired by everyone because God instructed them, you will help my favorite creation, you will help man. And then for him to be threatened by a woman. If you guys go read Revelation, like the whole reason he went after Eve is because he thought that was who God was referencing, and we now know, of course, it was Mary. So all of these attacks, it's the same. If you go read about the fall from heaven, it is the same playbook. It's the same thing. The deception in the garden, all of it. It's the same playbook. Mexican. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna get.
No, go ahead.
Mexican Iron Man, thank you so much for being a member for 18 months. Satan and his demons are flooding the earth with their evil works. Yes, I've always enjoyed the Summer Olympics, but I'm boycotting all of it this year. As am I.
I was just going to say, I think we can still pray for our enemies, even when they're persecuting us. I think Christ does that.
Yep.
When he said on the cross, obviously, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. But I think we also have examples after Christ rose from the dead and is reigning in heaven. I mean, I think of like the Battle of Lepanto. Obviously, we hear that the soldiers were all praying the rosary, right? And that turned the tide. But I would assume that many of them, they are obviously praying for victory, but they were also, I would assume, praying for their enemies that they were
John,
fighting
that's
as well.
actually, it wasn't just the soldiers. It was Pius V that asked everybody, the whole church, to pray the rosary. That's where we get the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary from.
Yep.
In croissants.
And so it's so, and because you're trying to rescue humanity at that point, but when they also do so this is something that most people have not seen, I've noticed, and shout out to Memology for finding it, because I turned it off after all of that. Did you guys see this?
Oh, gee.
Hold on,
What
it
is
gets
that?
worse. Yo, just watch. Polyamory.
What is that? Oh.
The beginning of a threesome. They're showing the beginning of a threesome. That is the Olympics. That's the Olympics. Why? Because.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, if even if you're looking at objectively, what does this have to do with sports?
Get that off the screen. So yeah, that's like that is that's also on there. So that's all part of the opening ceremony. We're going to go look at a couple of other opening ceremonies. So this is from the 2004 Athens ceremony. Okay, where that's loud. Where the Olympics started in Greece, right? Like nobody denies that, obviously. This was when the birthplace of the Olympics. They made a huge deal of it. There's no mockery. It's not this display of absolute disgust for their own history and nation. They're honoring what was and where they came from, right? The crowns, right? The wreaths. Like the running men, it's incredibly respectful. They're not mocking anything or anyone. And then Father Miller sent me this. I don't know if I'm going to get struck for this or not, but we'll play it for a minute.
30 seconds.
Yeah, but the music is
so this is
music. I'll just put it on mute then.
Yeah. Well, so I'll let you guys listen to about 30 seconds of music. Well, not 30, about 5 seconds of music, and you guys will get the gist from there. So that's the music, that's the opening. And then okay, so it's the Olympic Games. That's Rocket Man.
I mean, I still remember this. I was 10 years old in 84 when this happened. I still remember it. It's the one thing I remember as a kid. Something like that. It was so impressive.
Yeah. This is incredible. Like, this is looking to the future. This is the promise of hope and aspiration and looking at human exceptionalism and human excellence and dreaming of what was to come and the better things that were possible, that we could dream of as human beings, and what we were genuinely capable of. And you have that example, you have France. There's so much that that we're capable of and is possible for us, and yet we got whatever debauchery that was. And I don't have, I have no words, honestly. And the fact that we've fallen so far.
Also, you know who did the music for that one? John Williams.
Of course he did. Yeah, it has his marks all over it. It's amazing how the normies just can't get it. They can see this, be utterly shocked by it, but never pause to reflect or guess at what got us here. Opening ceremony was not an accident. It was carefully coordinated and well-funded humiliation ritual. Yeah, $1.5 billion, guys, for this. $1.5 billion.
And Grabthar's Hammer points out in the chat too that that they had like multiple committees, multiple meetings. This was clearly discussed, clearly talked about, and approved at multiple levels.
Kramer, what's going on in France? 200 years of godless liberalism is approaching its natural conclusion. But it's true, though. It's true. That's why self-control is one of the fruits of the spirit. Like, that's why you need it. You cannot just go off and make and be like, but the other thing is, oh, well, if God loves me and God forgives me, I can do all these things. And then at the end of my life, after I've sinned, I'll go find Christ. Okay, but you don't know when the end of your life is going to be. You cannot do that. And the fact that this is at all.
We even have a parable with the guest to the wedding, I think, right?
Yes.
Is not dressed properly and is actually thrown out.
Yep, thrown out
because Christ does not recognize.
If you're not, yeah, exactly. And to mirror that parable, this is just like the rich men and the better woman who gave all she had, that one coin. She gave the one coin, and they all mocked her because it was. And then they were like, who gave more? Those who have much and gave less than they could have afforded to, or the one who gave everything that they had, regardless of their situation. And so that is the wild difference going on here. Like it's a different thing if you are struggling or poor and you can't afford, you have on the nicest thing you can and you get as cleaned up as you can. Okay. That's one thing, but to show up to church and be in volleyball booty shorts and flip-flops, no, absolutely not. I'm getting really sick of showing up to any church. Like, leggings are not pants. Leggings are not pants. Stop wearing them as pants. They are meant to go under stuff. I know this because leggings have been around for a really long time. Fleece-lined leggings are now the thing, and I'm like, bro, I wore those growing up. They were terrible, but that's what you had to wear under your pants.
I think she cut out.
She was so mad she spoke herself out into a black hole.
I know. I stuttered. I'm just saying, leggings are supposed to go under stuff. Go under stuff. I'm not saying you have to show up in a 3-piece suit and a bedazzled dress or anything like that. But for the love of God, at least try. Literally, for the love of God, try. Put in some kind of effort. I don't care if it's a pearl snap button up and the nicest pair of jeans that you have. I'm cool with it if they're clean and you look presentable, fine. But please, for all that is holy, act like you care. Act like you want to be there. I mean, I know it's said a lot. Daily mass is a thing. People should go. Adoration is a thing. You should go. But if what you can do is 1 hour a week, that doesn't seem like too big of a sacrifice to me. Just in my humble opinion. Doesn't seem like too big of a sacrifice to look presentable and go to church for 1 hour. I grabbed ours there.
Yep.
Needed
that.
Can be shrink wrapped, but women shouldn't be. Yes.
Well, true, but men too, because I sometimes get a little cranky. I hear an awful lot about what women are doing.
Yeah.
But you know what, men, you have a responsibility too.
Oh, Yeah, while we're on men's, I see it less with men because men don't tend to wear leggings, at least where I'm from. I swear, though, if I see another teenager show up in one of those cut-out T-shirts, like where they've cut the arms and stuff off, where they open at the sides, and then they have a tank top underneath it, I will probably hit you with a Bible. I'll probably hit you with a Bible. I'm done. Like the cut open T-shirts, what is that? Like you couldn't find anything nicer to wear than your stinky gym attire.
I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but yeah, I see the sports jerseys too. Kind of
right.
Like it's a little. It's like, are you serious? What are you doing here?
Right, like
you're at mass. You shouldn't be wearing a sports jersey.
If you want to wear a sports
now,
jersey,
the only exception I make to that is if the kids are going to be playing sports, I'm happy that they're coming to church to fulfill their obligation for that first, and then go. But I agree. I mean, if you're just wearing it because you want to support your team, then that's not appropriate.
Wear a sports jersey
in the car.
Yes, you can. You can. I did too. You can get changed in the car. Also, if you want to wear a sports jersey, then it should say Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and then have like the number 3 on the back or something, or the number 1, whatever. 3 or 1. I'll take either one. But like, if you wanted to do something like that, I would actually be semi okay with it. Maybe not to church, but just like in general. But if you're going to support a team, why would you not support the heavenly team? And here's the other thing. So guys, South Korea is becoming wildly Christian and very Catholic. Like the Catholic movement in South Korea is incredibly powerful. I think they just had like 11 or 12 ordained priests get ordained in South Korea, which is huge. Guess what the Olympic Committee did to South Korea when they introduced them? Did you guys hear about this?
Well, they messed up something. I forget what it was.
South Korea was introduced as North Korea at the Olympics. They introduced them as North Korea.
Oops.
They didn't introduce them as just the Republic of Korea because, I mean, from what
no.
I understand, South Koreans and North Koreans both still view themselves as
the Republic of Korea. No, they called them the gosh, what is it? The North Korean here.
That wasn't an
all done on purpose. I think Isaac Young points it out there. It is a humiliation ritual. It's it's what you do when you think that you have conquered a nation, and it's to demoralize people, to put them down. We are your masters now. You are beholden to us. Our principles, or they're not really principles, but our degeneracy, our debauchery, they're not values either, right?
Key values, I guess.
I didn't use that. Morality is what is now on top, and it's used to demoralize us, to try and keep you down, not to weaken that fighting spirit that we have, that crusader spirit. And we need to respond in the opposite manner. I think we really need to take Bishop Barron's advice and to heart. We need to resist, and I think it can come in a number of different ways. I talked about it a little bit earlier. Obviously, I think we can do penance, reparation. Go to adoration. I think there can also be public displays with a Eucharistic adoration, a procession. I think you can have public rosary gatherings as well. I see a lot of them in Ireland and in Poland and in Hungary. They seem to be growing and becoming bigger and bigger. And I think that is something maybe people can do in France. Have these like public displays. Say no to this and be willing. Be willing to face the consequences, the worldly consequences, and we are going to have them. I mean, we're seeing them here today. I saw even in the United States, a woman was sentenced to 3 years in prison
for praying,
being a pro-life activist. Yeah,
for praying at the abortion clinic. Yeah, I saw that.
What happens as a result? Where are the people? Why aren't the Americans marching through the streets? Now, we don't have to march in violence because, of course, we're all going to be thrown in jail, and that's the wrong thing to do. But you see, that's where I get very frustrated. It's like a lot of people like to talk, and I'm not necessarily calling out anyone on this panel. I'm just saying in general. But where are the people? Like back in the day when the Catholic churches were being attacked, the Irish, they would go and make rings around their churches. Where are we in this? And I mean, because like, for example, okay, I'll go show up, I'll do this, I'm one person, but no one else does. Also, I want to make one quick point as well that I was wondering about this. I didn't watch 1 second of the Olympics thing, but just through my social media, I have had all this stuff on me. I'm feeling demoralized. I'm feeling all these things. I don't even know if I'm feeling the fruits of the spirit right now. Are we doing the wrong things by constantly cycling? Because I would not have seen that satanic imagery over and over and over again over the past 12 hours if it wasn't being flashed up everywhere. Is that the wrong thing to do? Because
I
is
don't
this
think so.
demoralizing us?
I don't think so, because that is, I think that's how the enemy wants you to view it, because he wants you to be demoralized. But also, this stuff, it's no longer afraid of the light, which means we have to shine more light on it. Because the only way you defeat darkness is by shining light on it. And the fact that this is so in your face and it's so out there. I mean, think about all of these parents, all of these Christian, like this goes out to Christian. I am a Catholic parent with children who are athletes. The Olympics is supposed to be the peak athletic accomplishment. Like, if you are the best, you get to go to the Olympics. Do you, as a parent, really want to prepare yourself to send your child down a road that ends here, that ends with this satanic imagery? Do you think that maybe perhaps an actual spiritual revolution needs to occur? And I say this with does an alternative need to be made? Now you're gonna be like, how are you gonna make an alternative to the Olympics? I'm not sure. I don't have that answer. I am not an athletic organization genius. I simply know that if this is the path that the Olympics committee is going to go down, my children will be no part of it.
We already have alternatives, right? There already are alternatives. Obviously, the Olympics are the pinnacle. They happen every 2 years now with the summer and winter. But you have world championships. You have the World Cup. You have the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Obviously, there isn't football in the Olympics and things like that. But there are already alternatives. But I know I'm kind of stepping on toes here, but I just wanted to go back to what Miss Martin Muses was saying here, and this idea that they're trying to demoralize us, and they are, and that's why we have to go to our Lord, right? And He'll give us the strength to fight back against this. And I agree with Lady Gravemaster that we have to be inspired to fight back against this. This should encourage us. This should show it's very clear who the enemy is, and we can actively fight against it. Whereas, like, I feel even like 10, 15 years ago, I clearly was not engaged in this battle at all. And now I am heavily engaged. And there are people doing things like we're doing this right now. I talk about my faith all the time now when it comes to pop culture. Bishop Barron was just talking about the National Eucharistic Congress. 50,000 people were gathered, probably even more. They had a massive Eucharistic procession, people worshiping our Lord in adoration. Fantastic stuff. And that was being spread throughout the United States and in the media as well. And so other people were probably doing their adoration in their local parishes where they have adoration chapels, or even in the main sanctuary. And then also something that I think we do is that maybe not unheard of, but like we have a murder mill in my diocese now, in my parish actually. And there are people there every single Saturday praying for an end to that. So people are being rallied, and I think more and more people are doing it, and we're seeing more and more people come to this. I mean, you look at things like Tucker Carlson now. He is the #1 podcast in the United States of America, in the world, and he is talking about the spiritual battle. So I feel like there are things at work. The Lord is moving. Things are happening, and maybe we don't see it all the time, but we have to continue to pray and use our weapons like the rosary and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and also, the devil does not like to be mocked, and this is why I will continue to make fun of this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, this stuff is just so beyond cringe. It's laughable.
I forget which which bishop or priest said it, but they said that the devil mocks and imitates and pretends and lies. But the one thing that he cannot ever imitate is humility. It is the one thing that he will never be able to imitate. And so because of that, when they're telling you pride, like the lust, gluttony, all of these things. So to give you guys an idea, the body positivity movement was meant for like burn victims and amputees and people who were veterans, and as well as people who were born with the like Down syndrome, and anybody that might be paraplegic or has other things that they cannot control. It is not. It is not. Yeah, it's not about you being perfect the way that you are and accept me for all of my flaws and all of my sins, and I don't need to seek any type of self-improvement. That's not what the body positivity movement was for. It was so that these other people who are looked at like they're sort of, they're pitied or they're ignored or people are frightened of them because of the way they look, especially burn victims. I mean, it can be pretty brutal sometimes to look at. And so when you think about what it was supposed to be and how deranged it has become, that is just another example of how lust, gluttony, pride, all of these things, they infiltrate and they destroy and they just absolutely obliterate or attempt to obliterate the good that people have been trying to do. And on that, so we've seen really positive responses from Bishop Barron, Bishop Strickland, from Marco Rubio, from Butker, like all good things. This is an individual who claims to be Catholic, I believe. Mitt Romney, right? He claims
no, he's a Mormon.
He never became Catholic.
Mormon.
He's Mormon.
Okay. Paris 2024 opening ceremony showcased the world's most beautiful city. Imaginative, inventive, and memorable. Performance by Celine Dion touched hearts. She epitomized the Olympic spirit with her determination, courage, and incomparable talent. That's what he said. Shout out to Kevin Sorbo, who is genuinely a warrior for Christ, like real life. Sam, I don't know. I know he played Hercules. I'm trying to think of the equivalent. Jason, maybe. You're a disgrace.
I was going to say, and actually for a Mormon, they were usually more hardcore about this kind of stuff. They often put us to shame, frankly. So I don't know what's going on with.
Because he's a Mormon in name only, much like there's
Romney
a bunch of
Muslim.
Yeah.
So Kevin Sorbo coming in with the 1-2. You are a disgrace. Like nothing super fancy. Just you're a disgrace. And then we get Joseph McBride's response on this, and the blasphemy of the Last Supper, the first Catholic Mass, and the Blessed Virgin Mary, sacrilegiously depicted here in a blue, I don't know how to say that, Baphomet dress. I am calling on government and religious leaders worldwide to denounce this attack on the Catholic faith. Who will stand with us? Until I read that, I did not realize that was like Baphomet. I had no idea.
Well, look at her crown. It's literally a mockery.
I was going to say,
I figured this was. I knew this was Mary. The blue is what, but I had no idea that was more disgusting than it already than it just being a dress.
The crown is a mockery of. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Revelation 12.
Well, it looks like oh my gosh, why can't I think of the term right now? It's where we hold the host in adoration.
Monstrance?
Like that's monstrance, thank you. That's what it looks like. It looks very similar to me.
Oh, actually,
I was getting the idea that it was more like a halo to make sure it stands out like a saint. Like in the painting, where you could tell that they are a saint because of the halo.
That's what I was thinking. But
it's also
I think all of it is true because it's imagery. It's imagery that they're messing up. The fact that we're all seeing that because images mean things, and I guess that's what I was trying to get back to respond to John Trent. What you were saying is, there is a part of me that wonders. I was always taught that. Hey, be careful of what you see with your eyes. I know many priests, for example, that won't watch exorcism movies because that might get into their head. The balance of, as lay people, not all of us have the the spiritual gifts that other people have, and is this a good thing to put this imagery in our head when perhaps that is not our calling to do so? That's
No, I
No, that's
fully
Mary's.
understand that. I mean, that's why I try and avoid a lot of bad movies and TV shows now, like House of the Dragon and things like that, where they're clearly just kind of pushing a lot of that stuff. So I definitely recognize that. For this though, I don't know. It's so outrageously evil. I think it makes it so it's very clear which side you have to choose from.
I think all of that blasphemy is true, because like there's Mary's crown from Revelation, like, or a depiction of it. It's horrifying that they would that you would even think that this is acceptable. I mean,
like for me, just looking at this image, like
the heart.
It's like immediately evil. Yeah.
I completely missed the heart. Oh my god, this image gets worse the more I look at it. Like, I can't believe the French government allowed this. I'm blown away. I cannot believe this is a thing. I can't believe that how thoroughly the devil has decimated some souls. You know what I mean? Because I've always been taught like the optimistic outlook, like what Satan meant for evil, God will use for good. No one is beyond saving, even the worst of people. Like if the bad guys from World War II, if they had if they had asked for forgiveness from Christ, they would have received it. You know, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have still been judged by our court of laws and faced punishment that way, but they would have, at least sought divine.
Hans Frank is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Commander of Poland.
Yeah, and so like I'm just sitting here and I'm just blown away at how there's a reason I did not use that image for my thumbnail. That I used the image of the river because like I knew we were going to see enough of it. I don't need to be like blasting it out there. But the fact that this is so I understand that people are outraged. I understand the French people are outraged. I understand that there has been pushback. But I cannot think that that Poland, like I'm just trying to think of, I mean, they just recently voted to officially make Jesus Christ the King of Poland for eternity. That was within the last 2 years. So
there's some issues with Poland happening like recently though. They had to like fight back a murder bill on children.
Yes.
I think recently too. So there's a fight. There's a fight happening, and it's got to continue fighting. And we just saw a fight happen. And the French looked like they were going to maybe reclaim their country, and then these communists kind of cut a deal clearly with the devil, and teamed up together and stole that victory. And so I think this obviously has something to do with that too, because I highly doubt that this would ever take place under the what was her Marine Michelle or whatever her name, Marichelle. There's absolutely no way that this would have happened. So I think this is also something it's obviously happening on the global stage, but this is again the humiliation ritual to the French people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Le Pen, thank you. Grabthar's Hammer.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Grabthar's Hammer. I cannot understand. Like, I would be wholly embarrassed if I was French, but and as a Catholic, I am viscerally outraged. Like, I cannot get over it. And like the mainstream media's reaction is been, oh, it was too big, it was too showy, it was too, like it lost something on the TV. Like, I don't know. I agree, if Catholic, especially Catholic, but if Christian athletes don't walk away, they're just going to continue to do this. This is going to take so much courage and so much self-denial. I think that's the hardest part in a world with excess and where we're so used to everything at our fingertips and getting what we want and being, what is the word? Being justified in choosing ourselves. I think rejection of that, I mean, think.
You cut out.
This is truly.
Her head exploded again.
My head exploded again. No, it's my for whatever reason my internet is spotty. But like if you think about the like this is a true sacrifice. If Christian athletes were to walk away, because you think of the hundreds of hours, the years, the like the birthday party skipped, the TV, like all of these little self-indulgences,
advertising deal that you have, like there's a lot that goes into it.
Everything, all of it.
It's worth it. That you have to choose Christ.
This is literally worldly things. This is literally the prime example of worldly things over. Is it the worldly things, or will you choose Christ over them? And the immediate response, it's going to feel like you lost everything. It's going to feel like all of this was stripped away from you, and you've given on yourself. But if you can truly understand what you are going to be receiving, it would be a no-brainer to walk away from this blasphemy and this insanity. And then to give other people the strength to walk away. They're like, well, they did it and they're going to be okay. They did it. They're fine. And that would give courage, inspires courage. And so I think that it's just going to take, we just need that first one to walk away.
I think that's why the French bishop's response is just so disappointing, because they are the shepherds. Christ appointed the apostles to lead the church. Peter, obviously, as the first pope, and the bishops and everything, and priests are supposed to be shepherds of the community and leading people in the right direction. And I just feel like that was just such a disappointing, milquetoast, and dare I say lukewarm response to what happened. And if you have strong leaders, I think that you have a very different response. And like you said, encourages other people to do the right thing and can follow suit. But I will say that obviously I agree with you with a call to get for athletes to leave. And I think they should leave. They should abandon the games. But maybe Father Miller can talk about this a little bit more, because obviously there's like the degrees of cooperation with evil and all of those things.
Oh, good heavens.
You're
talking about remote versus proximate cooperation in evil.
Right.
Where would this fall? Where do you think this would fall? Because obviously the athletes did not have anything to do with the
Yeah, maybe Grabthar's hammer can help you out too, because I think
I mean it's basically like, the thing is, I remember back in the 90s, it was trying to boycott the companies that gave to Planned Parenthood. And it's like, if you're doing that, you're pretty much not going to be able to buy anything. But your dollar is not going to make or break Planned Parenthood. So, I mean, it's kind of something like that with the Olympics. I don't think by being there, I got to rethink that. I mean, it's a difference between like a Simone Biles being there or not being there. I got to relook at this stuff up. Right. It's been a while since I studied it.
What I hope they don't think it and what I hope these coaches are not telling their athletes is, listen, it's over, it's done with. You didn't have anything to do with it. It isn't your fault. Let's just continue the games, and let's use them to showcase our like.
I mean, it's like showing up to the 36 Olympics in Germany with the mustache man. By being there, are you supporting him?
Right. And you can also look at the Republican National Convention too, right? So obviously there was the stuff that happened on that first day, but then we saw Catholics saying the St. Michael the Archangel prayer later on and things like that. So like I think if I was there, if I was one of the athletes, like obviously it's going to be an absolutely difficult, insanely hard decision to make, because there is so much riding on it. You have like built your entire life for this, and in many cases this is maybe your only opportunity that you have. But I think in if I had that decision, I would it would be easy for me, especially where I am right now, is you just walk away. But I can see how that would be difficult. And obviously there could be an opportunity where Katie Ledecky wins all her golds and she uses that opportunity to condemn what happened and profess the faith and use that platform to do that. Because I think she's a Catholic. I'm pretty sure she is. And there's also the hurdler as well. I'm pretty sure she went to a Catholic school. I can't remember her name. So
there's a few, and I can't imagine, like, this is,
and that's just Americans. There's obviously, I think there's like a Nigerian track and field woman who's like really, really good, has a big opportunity to win gold. I know when I watch some of the world championship stuffs or the other track meets, she's always praising God for everything that he's given her. And most of the athletes are like that. Even the Americans.
But I think this is that situation where when it's not really controversial, and in the good times it's easy to praise him. It's in times like these, like, are you really going to stand by him? Are you really going to, are you really going to showcase what it means to be Christian and to be faithful, to be Catholic, and to love and defend the Lord? And, you always get these people who are like, oh, well, if he's God, why does he need me to defend him? Why does he need me to do anything for him? And what they are confusing or rejecting, or overlooking, whatever word you want to use for it, is that all things, like, if you look at the 5 heavenly crowns, if you look at Gabriel's horn, if you look at Michael's sword, if you look at Raphael's spear, like, all of these things are used to glorify and worship the Lord, who loved us enough to give us free will and to make these decisions for ourselves. And everybody's like, well, then why, like, how would a merciful God send me to hell? And it's, God doesn't send you to hell. You choose to go there. You choose hell over heaven. You're the one who
it's wrong. It is wrong. And yet you freely choose to do it.
And you freely choose to do it. And yet, no matter how many times you choose to do it, you can keep coming back and asking for forgiveness.
And again, the key word is freely.
Yes.
Not being forced.
Exactly. Okay, so Father Miller has found we get to do a little little coursework here.
Going back to seminary
for material versus immaterial. Yeah. Well,
it's a little bit more complicated than what I was looking at it. I forgot how much stuff there is to it.
Okay, so cooperation contributes a principal act via a cooperative act. Formal, cooperative act is the same as a principal act. Material, principal act is an outcome of the cooperative act. Immediate, cooperative act is part of the principal act. Mediate, cooperative act supplies the conditions of the principal act. So this would be like you said, donating the dollar or whatever. Then you have instrumental. The principal act is a means to the good outcome of the cooperative act. Non-instrumental. Principal act isn't a means to the good outcome of the cooperative act. So again, is it $1 or is it, $10,000 or whatever? Proximate. Cooperative act is causally near the principal act. Remote. Cooperative act is casually distant from the principal act. So this is currently where the athletes are sitting. They were there because they agreed to the Olympics, but they had nothing to do with the opening ceremony. And so it happened whilst they were there, but they were not actually physically responsible for making it and couldn't do anything whilst it was going on because they're trapped on boats on the river, which I don't recommend you jump into at all, ever. And then you have indispensable. Cooperation cannot be supplied by another cooperator. Dispensable. Cooperation can be supplied by other cooperators. And then for remote, same thing, cooperation, indispensable, indispensable. So
it sounds legalistic, but it does make a difference.
It really does. And so this is where we get into this. So the way that I would look at this would be, if you guys, we're gonna touch on some pop culture. If you guys ever saw the movie Live Free or Die Hard, I know a lot of people had issues with it, but something very interesting happens in there. So in the movie, something called a fire sale happens, right? And that's where everything goes offline. Everything must go. It's called a fire sale because literally everything must go. And so how they did it was, it wasn't one person that was able to turn it all down. They actually came down here and it would be like right here. They were like, hey, we need you to write some code. We need you to write some code because we're this company and we do firewall protection and everything like that. We need you to write code to try and break it so that we can defeat it, was essentially the line, right? They went to all of these different hackers and were like, hey, we need you to write this code so that we can try and counter it. That's what they were told, right? Well, these hackers made their little bits of code. None of them could see the whole output because they each only had a part of the code. And so they made the code and then they were taken out, right? And then it got back to where this one person needed it to happen, but he had to disseminate because he couldn't do it all himself because they would have nailed him. But to have all of these other people do it made it much easier. Does that make sense? Like, he's still the super bad guy, and they thought they were helping, but when they wrote it all out, they actually helped, quote unquote, like take down, like helped the fire sale happen, if that makes sense. But that's kind of the situation that we're looking at with that. But it was just insane. Mexican Ironman says, wish I had been there. The headline would read, breaking news, Mexican Olympic swimmer crosses river to attack Satan's demons with sombrero while pride dancers performing, film at 11. What? I would hope so. That would be awesome. Like, we need chivalry and knights and crusader spirit again, because what is happening has been allowed. Like, it has been allowed to happen.
Have you guys seen the video of the woman at the Texas Capitol in Austin where this rally happened? You haven't seen this, Father Miller?
No, I haven't.
It was actually making the rounds.
Let me see if I can.
This week, recently.
Let me see if I can find it.
There's like a Muslim rally happening at the state capitol in Austin, and this woman just like gets up, takes the microphone, and is like, Texas will never become Muslim. This is a Christian nation. Long live Texas, or something like that.
Yeah. She got up there, like, no fear, grabbed the microphone and was like, that's mine. This is not a Muslim nation. Texas will never become Muslim. God bless America. God bless Texas. This is a Christian nation. It was awesome. I can't find it. I'll send it to you when I do find it.
Yeah. Well, I think this brings up a good point, which is kind of what I've been leaning toward, is like, okay, we can't control France. We can't control Rome. We can't control the bishops. We can't control anything, but you can control your local community. And that maybe the way Texas has been going, for example, so far, standing pretty strong, is because we are so strong locally. So, I always like to think something practical. It's like, folks, get involved. Start with your local parish. Start with your local community. Start with the people down the street. That's where you have to start. Because if you try to start with, well, we got to take on the Olympic Committee, we got to take on the WEF, we got to take on the deep state, we cannot. Okay. Or start with yourself. Start with your soul.
Yeah, and as an example of that, I read this a couple of years ago. There was an adoration chapel built in the most violent town in Mexico. It had the highest crime rate. There was all kinds of gang violence that was happening. They built an adoration chapel, began actually engaging in adoration, and the crime rate went to zero. That's the power of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist and in adoration, and when you actually have the faith of the people there. And what did Christ tell us? Like, your faith can move mountains. It can literally stop crime. With that, I mean, you're 100% on board with smart moves. And again, there's obviously different ways we can fight this, right? I think I've recommended a couple of them that I think we can do, and I think those are like good options that we can do. And as you say, personally, prayer, pray your rosary, go to adoration, do reparation, make sure you go to confession, go to mass. Those are the things that start, and it does indeed. It starts on an individual level, and we set the example for others, and we can lead others to Christ, and then it begins kind of spreading. I mean, that's how Christendom started. That's how we conquered Rome. Was through that, and there was lots of persecutions, obviously, that happened with Nero and everything. But what ended up happening is Christendom spread and conquered Rome, conquered Europe.
Absolutely. And oh gosh, I don't know. Like a lot of people, they're like, remember, you'll know the season, but you won't know the time. And they're saying this is the end times and stuff like that. It got pretty bleak during the Dark Ages too. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, but I cannot imagine. I can't imagine this being acceptable. And then to add to it, you have the imagery. I don't know if I can find it, but they had a hot air balloon fly over like a beaten up and desecrated Statue of Liberty, which for those of you that don't know was a gift from France to America. Did you guys see that as well?
Yeah, that was bizarre. It was like all beat up and shot up, and
Let me see.
There's one in France too, though. There's like two of them.
Yeah, there's two of them.
They have one in France.
Yeah, and so like it's
it was a cartoon thing they did.
Yeah,
showing
and people are like, "Oh, well, they were referencing Planet of the Apes," and I'm sitting here like when I saw that, I was like, "That's not the reference I got at all," because even in Planet of the Apes, like she still had her crown was still intact. So like oh gosh, let me see if I can find it. Google is definitely listening because it popped up on my screen. That's actually rather scary. So this is what they're saying is and I'm not going to share sound. I'll just put it up on the screen really fast. This is what they're saying is the homage to Planet of the Apes, even though like you have a literal cactus and a desert. So this is like a desert that it's floating over. And then, so Statue of Liberty.
She's clearly wounded on the arm, on her face.
Everything. Like her crown is tattered. Her book has been destroyed. Like the torch has been, I don't know, desecrated, but it's been damaged. Like, this doesn't seem Planet of the Apes to me, like at all. What like and also it would directly contradict Tommy Jolly's statement of the new energetic Paris, not the old romanticized version of Paris, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Planet of the Apes is not a new book. But
Is it written by a French author?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's oh gosh. Bouillet. Yeah, Bouillet. Pierre Bouillet is the author, I believe. No. Yeah, Pierre Bouillet. Yep. Absolutely.
I actually, so for that's almost like positive symbolism for me, because I feel like the Statue of Liberty is like represents like liberal ideology and it's being beaten up. So like that's actually like a positive thing that I see for that. Obviously I know that I'm probably in the minority on that. People see that as a representation of the United States, etc. But yeah.
It's yeah, I think that was the I don't think the symbolism they were going for was to attack liberalism. I don't think that's what they were going for. But
it is what we say it is, though, right?
Right? That art is open to interpretation.
Yep.
Okay, so Joshua Charles.
Star Trek is right wing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, actual New World Order. So he posted this in November of 2023. Okay, November 24th, 2023. So Thanksgiving. So we'll just read the very beginning.
And this was kind of what you were talking about, where you saw some people talking about end time stuff. Yeah.
So prior to incarnation, vast majority of the world was enslaved by idolatry and the behest of rulers initiated into pagan mysteries and allied with demonic powers. Satan was loose and ruled the kingdoms of the world. Israel accepted some of the time. What pagan sacrifice they offer to demons, and all the gods of the nations are demons. Psalms 96:5 and 1 Corinthians 10:20. With the passion and resurrection of Christ, Satan was bound, and Christ began to reign as king from heaven, drawing all the elect to himself until his return. The power of the cross created a new set of mysteries, the 7 sacraments, by which spiritually dead human nature could be regenerated, healed, and empowered to love God as our first parents had failed to do. Obviously talking about Adam and Eve. This grace is offered to the world through the Catholic Church, the Messianic kingdom prophesied by Daniel. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set upon kingdom which shall never be destroyed, nor shall its sovereignty be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever. The kingdom spans both heaven and earth, while its earthly fortunes change and will seem to end in catastrophe during the reign of Antichrist. Its ranks in heaven are constantly growing until Christ's return. It is an eternal kingdom. By the power of the sacraments, the church spread, paganism was defeated, Christian civilization was built, and the knowledge of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob spread to the ends of the earth through the Catholic Church. The old world order, though not entirely dead and attacking the church from without by non-believers and undermining it from within throughout heresy and schism, was nonetheless restrained, kept at bay, while the elect of God from every corner of the earth were and are brought into the church. This was and is the sacramental civilization of Christendom, which brought nature and grace together. By it, the goods of the strong order that is daily increasing as the saints who persevered to the end are even now reigning with Christ in heaven, waiting for him to avenge their blood as the remainder of their brethren come into the ark of the church. Here we go. Prior to the end, however, Satan will be released. The old alliance between elites and the demonic will rise once again after having been restrained for so long, and will have its final chance to destroy Christ's church. The strong man will return with many more demons. They will attempt to reestablish society along pre-incarnation lines, separating nature from grace in every way possible. Separation of church and state, secularized education, easy divorce laws, and reduction of marriage to a civil contract. The moral degradation of the masses, the apostasy of the nations, and the destruction of the family, priesthood, etc. So that gives you that idea. So you guys can finish reading that up if you want to. And then
right, all of this stuff is connected. Like that's
okay. Well, so the New World Order is actually an updated version of the Old World Order that dominated the earth prior to incarnation. The sacramental civilization of Christendom will be supplanted by an anti-sacramental one, and Antichrist will initiate the final passion of the mystical body of Christ, the Catholic Church, which shall be betrayed from within and attacked from without. The public sacrifice of the Mass will be brought to an end for 3.5 years, and with it all the graces that flow into the world by the representation in time of the one sacrifice of Jesus Christ eternally before the Father in heaven. During this time, the shattering of the power of the holy people will be completed. For a time, the church will seem all but dead. The apparent triumph of Antichrist will be the Holy Saturday of the church. But that is not the end. She will rise again in glory to greet her returning Lord, who will slay the Antichrist, separate the righteous and the wicked, judge the living and the dead, and inaugurate eternity in the heavens and new earth. And of course, this is Jesus returning with the heavenly host and destroying all of. So you can see Zeus. So these are all the pagan gods, the cow, all of this. And he said that back in November. So what happened at the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 is not a mystery if you understand that we are quite possibly in the epoch of when Satan has been unleashed. The old pre-incarnation alliance between elites and demons has been allowed to revive and is revealing itself. So we are very much, like I said, we will know the season, but not the exact time. It's getting harder and harder and harder for those who live in denial to continue denying this stuff. And I think that, quite frankly, if you are still so desperate to deny Christ's existence, because here's the thing, as we said at the beginning of this and as we've said through this, they obviously know Christ is real. They wouldn't be doing this if they thought he wasn't, if they believed otherwise. They know who is their ultimate, like, who will bring about the destruction of their wanton, sinful, self-indulgent ways. They know who it is. That's why they're attacking him. And
I do think I pointed this out earlier. I think people are seeing this. I mean, you look at Tucker Carlson, #1 podcast. He is actively talking about this stuff all the time now and how we are in a spiritual battle. Elon Musk did an interview with Jordan B. Peterson and explained that the reason why he bought X was because his son was destroyed, attacked viciously by this ideology that is an attack on God. He even talked about how he seemingly is moving towards Christ. He's talking about how he wants to be a cultural Christian. Obviously, that is a small step in a much larger journey that hopefully he is on. I think Grabthar's Hammer talked about how Jordan Peterson is on that path as well.
His
so we are
wife
seeing
just recently converted
to Catholicism. Yes. We saw Candace Owens has converted to Catholicism now and is openly speaking about her journey and the Catholic faith and things like that as well. So we're seeing people that do have huge audiences, lots of influence. They are indeed kind of moving towards Catholicism. Russell Brand has converted to Christianity as well. He's become a really strong voice there, and it looks like he has a lot of Catholic leanings. I'm not sure if he's actually going to convert to Catholicism or not, but he prays the rosary, and he seems to be heavily influenced by a lot of Catholic teaching, Catholic scholars. Michael Knowles, so what's the other guy's name? Matt Walsh, obviously, are very influential as well. So we are seeing Jack Posobiec, etc. We're seeing a lot of, I think, conversions and people coming in. And again, these are just big personas with big audiences. Just imagine there's other people that are having those conversions as well. I was talking to a friend just the other day that he says he's going to be going back to church and things like that. So I think we're talking about how like absolutely evil and stuff this is, but it is, I think, to kind of what we were talking about earlier, is like people are seeing this. They are seeing how wicked our generation is, how wicked the societies are, and they're seeking the truth. They're seeking the answers why this stuff is happening, and they're coming back to Christ because he has the answers. He is truth.
Absolutely. And just like we just read, it's the fact that, Satan thinks that, like, the fact that they're not afraid to openly do this anymore and to have light shined on them, because again, if you're getting these milk toast open like statements from the bishops and stuff, if the church leadership is weak, then the church is going to be weak. And anyone who is cheering this on or supporting it or believes that this is just art, they are, like I said before, they are seeking the destruction of everything that is true and good and beautiful. They don't want truth and beauty because they are twisted and evil and demonic, and that the beauty just lets them know what they are not. They think that they can't attain it. And I wish, like, the thing is, it's really simple, but it's not easy. Does that make sense? Like the what needs to be done, like, it's very simple. Like, athletes need to walk away. It's very simple, but it's not easy to do. It's very simple. Reject Satan. Walk away from self-indulgence and sin.
It's the rich man, right? He goes to Christ and it says, I do everything that you talk about. What else can I do? And Christ says, sell all your goods and come follow me. And he can't do it. Yeah, he can't do it. And so it's very simple, but it is not easy. And we're gonna wrap up here because I know everybody has stuff to do and it's Saturday morning, and I'm so thankful that you guys were able to make it at this very last minute live stream. But when you think about what's going on in the world, I'm just it just, whilst I'm tired, it just reinvigorates me to continue to teach and pray and fight. And I recently just took I can say this now because I've officially signed a contract. I just left a non-denominational Christian school to teach at a Catholic school. So I am very excited about that because fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I know that it's going to help myself, my children, my family in so many ways. And I'm just like, oh, that's wonderful. And then my husband brought up and he's like, yeah, but also think about how many kids. He's like, you have a very unique perspective as a Catholic, having been like through the stuff you've been through, so you can actually talk to these kids and answer some of their questions that they might have, because there was a point when I was in the Marine Corps, it was more than once suggested that I get an abortion even though I was married, because everybody's going to think that I'm, that I'm easy. Doesn't matter that I'm married. And a lot of very self-indulgent, sinful behavior was very encouraged because they put the job before family or anything like that. And so I have a very different perspective than a lot of people. And there are several things that I look back in the Marine Corps, had I not been Catholic, had I not clung to my faith, several things would be very different. And so I can personally attest to when you walk away from what the world is telling you to do and go towards Christ, the beautiful, just everything that's waiting for you. And it's going to be rough. And I'm going to end on this note, and then I'll let each of you kind of give your thoughts and like closing thoughts and tell us where everybody can come find you. But it was one of those street preachers, and he was talking to someone, and they were like, yeah, when I started following Satan, like I got everything I wanted. I'm happier now because I have all this stuff that I want. And the guy's response was brilliant. He said, I believe that Satan gave you everything you think you wanted and everything you think you needed, because that's what Satan does. Like, he tricks you into thinking that you're miserable because you don't have all of these material things. And so he's going to give you these material things and convince you that you're happy. And he was like, and you are happy. He said, but you don't have joy. And that is one of the biggest distinctions. Happiness is an emotion that comes and goes. Joy is an actual state of being. It's where, like, when Paul was being led up to be killed, and he was just, he was being led to his death, and he had surrendered himself to Christ. He wasn't crying. He wasn't fearful. He was joyful because he was going home to meet the Lord. And it was the state of his soul. He had joy, which means no matter the evil that comes at you or tries to usurp you or take Christ out of your heart, you don't allow it to happen. It isn't a feeling. It is a state of being. And those are two very different things. And you could see the guy, like, when the street preacher was like, Satan is going to give you everything he wants because it's a small price to pay to get your eternal soul away from Jesus. And the guy just kind of sat there, and you could see this was the first time he had really thought about it. And it's wild that more people don't recognize or are unfamiliar with that aspect of Satan. He is willing to give you whatever you ask for because it's nothing compared to him getting your soul for eternity. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, St. Augustine says our hearts are restless until they rest in him. Mm-hmm. Baltimore Catechism says we're meant to be love, serving. God made me to know him, to love him, to serve him on this earth so I could be happy with him forever in heaven. It's only until we possess that for which we are made will we truly be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything else that we have will break down. It'll go away. But only God, for which we are meant for, that's when we're going to be happy.
Absolutely. And on that note, if for anybody that's still, thank you, chat, for being here. We greatly appreciate you listening. This talk was, I feel at least, really fantastic. We talked about a lot. We covered a lot. If you guys are confused or don't know what to do, or you're like, if you're feeling like the Holy Spirit is trying to move you, but you don't know where, I strongly recommend, and I'm going to play it at the exit as well. But we played the St. Michael, the Archangel prayer at the beginning of this. I strongly recommend the St. Michael prayer. I strongly recommend Hail Marys, Hail Holy Queens, obviously the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, and then spend time with Jesus. Open your Bible, read the Bible. If you're confused on something, reach out to someone that you can trust, whether it's a priest.
My DMs are open.
John's DMs are open. Yeah. Mine are not, but if you just send me a message and are like, hey, Lady G, I need to talk about the stream, I will absolutely, if I'm not following you, I will absolutely have a discussion about it. Anybody on this panel, I can assure you,
I might be a little bit slow with it because again, I'm going to be on vacation, but I'll try.
But he'll try.
Yeah,
exactly. There's
I was going to say the other thing too. If you're Catholic, I would definitely recommend getting a scapular, little brown thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're interested, St. Benedict medal, because that's a very powerful medal.
Yes. And to be clear, guys, this is not idolatry. We do not think or superstition. We do not believe that these are in lieu of Christ. That they're above Christ or they're to substitute for him. That's the other big thing I hear. Oh, well, you're substituting Christ. No, we're not. This is a weapon that Christ has bestowed upon us to use in these spiritual battles. And quite frankly, after what we've been witnessing, why you would not seek every spiritual weapon in your arsenal to utilize, I honestly can't.
They hate Mary. The devil hates Mary. We just saw that in the
devil loathes Mary.
He's making war. He makes war on Mary. It's in Revelation 12.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw that and that's why he attacked Eve in the garden. That's why he went for Eve and not Adam, because he thought that Eve was the woman whom God was referring to. And of course, like I said, we know that that's not the case. We know that it was Mary, but we know that now. The devil didn't know that. So it's, yes, go visit a tabernacle. Absolutely. Just, even if you just walk into most Catholic churches, at least in America, they are open during the day. And the chapels are usually open at night. The adoration chapels, you can go there, and there's usually someone in there doing adoration, and just sit in his presence. Like that's if you don't know what to say, if you don't know, like if you're lost, if you're confused, just go sit with him for 5 minutes. Just go sit in his presence, be with him. And then
one of the advice that my pastor usually gives is if you have a Bible, bring your Bible and just open it up. Just open it up, whoever page it opens to, that's God speaking to you. He probably has something to tell you in that passage. Usually New Testament is what he recommends, because that's what we have in the pews. We just have the New Testament, but he can speak to you through the Old Testament too, because Christ obviously fulfills the old and the new.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the more you dive into it and the more you open your Bible, the angrier Satan is going to get and the more attacks are going to come at you. I will let you know that when I was getting ready to make this move to teach at this Catholic school, he was everywhere. He very much not like my car broke down. People were telling me not to do it. I had people in my former administration who were saying that, after all we've done for you, you're going to just like leave and abandon it. Like there was a lot. And that's, you have to remember, even if those people didn't recognize that they were being used in a certain way, it still very much was happening. So again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so that's why you constantly have to pray. The path is very narrow. There are a lot of people and a lot of things that are going to try and pull you off that path. The good news is Jesus is right there. You just have to reach up and grab his hand and he'll bring you back to the path. But you have to accept his gifts. That's very important. And so wherever it is that you are in your spiritual path or in your spiritual quest, or if you're not spiritual at all, because we say spiritual, wherever you are in that seeking of the divine, a good place to start, like John said, crack open your Bible and just spend a few minutes with God and go from there. And ask people who you trust, because there are false prophets everywhere who will try and lead you astray as well. So please be very careful of those. On that note, Father Miller, speaking of not false prophets and who's preached the words of God and whatnot, where can people find you, and what are some of your closing thoughts on everything?
So I am Father Miller. I can be found at FR Miller. Been on Twitter so long, I was able to get that handle when it went new. So I also run a channel called The Nerd Father. I used to be able to stream a lot more when I had free time, but I, like Lady Gravemaster, teach in the Catholic high school. So I am going to be pretty busy because school's going to be starting up in about a month. So, but I tried to do some live streams. I haven't made a video in a while, but I'm going to try to. The Olympics, I just don't care. I really, since the Olympics have become more about the pro sports, pro athletes, I just don't care. I wish I cared, but I don't. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over not watching them or wondering if the Americans are going to win gold or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Miss Martin Muses, hello. Final thoughts, and where can folks find you?
Oh, well, just keep in mind, I don't know. I think that we need to, so that we don't despair, keep focused on the local, because it is impossible. We cannot do anything if our bishops and our pope will not. Visually, we cannot do anything if they will not. We cannot do what they can. But what we can do is look locally, and we can look within our own hearts, and we can also fulfill our vocations. And that's a little bit what I was wanting to get in earlier. It's not everyone's vocation to be dealing with this stuff, but we can all pray. So, discern, follow your conscience, and follow the gifts that the Lord is giving you in all of this. And if for any other reason, this is a great opportunity to share the truth about the Eucharist. I have a Catholic Explaining series where I've gone into a whole bunch of things. But my cat knocked my phone out of my hand. I have two of them which focus on the most holy Eucharist. It is the Catholic Explaining the Eucharist, as well as the Mass, and Sola Scriptura, Sola Fideism, or rather the Catholic Response, all of those things. Educate yourselves and learn about the Eucharist. Now, you can find me here on YouTube at Miss Martin Muses, where I talk about just about everything. But lately, as I've been doing a lot of fantasy review, I have been reviewing House of the Dragon. So maybe if you want some insights that you may not be seeing from some other larger channels, I think you might get a perspective from me, and also a load of Tolkien, because we all know that Satan doesn't like Tolkien, because
very much not.
So yeah, follow some of our stuff, and maybe look at the letters of Tolkien where I respond. Please get to know Tolkien's writings. Don't try to pretend. I'm pointing a small finger of judgment. I'm seeing a lot of people trying to defend Tolkien, and they're using the movies. Peter Jackson is not J.R.R. Tolkien, and read his letters, read his writings. Don't let your biases shape how you defend him. Otherwise, you're not defending him. So that's my little soapbox for today. And of course, pray the rosary, pray the little flower, and have a nice day.
Oh, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Mr. John F. Trent, where can we find you, and what are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, so you can find me at thatparkplace.com. I'm the editor-in-chief there. I run a YouTube channel, The Trent Report, as well as John F. Trent. The Trent Report, I kind of cover pop culture, news and video games and things like that, whereas my John F. Trent channel, I cover stock car racing. And I do provide a lot of cultural commentary on the Trent Report channel, where I bring a lot of my my Catholic beliefs and faith into the things that I'm talking about, because pop culture is full of anti-Christian messages, full of liberal ideologies, and that's something that we need to fight against. And so I'm happy to do that. And speaking of Tolkien, I'm actually working on a article for the Rings of Power, where they have confirmed some disgusting romances and other things that will be occurring in season 2. Just absolutely, it's evil stuff, man. They're literally trying to show one of the paragons of virtue in Tolkien's writing as somehow being romantically involved with one of the greatest demons ever. Yes, it's sick. It's absolutely sick and disgusting what they're doing. So I'll be having an article on that, probably do a video on that as well on the Trent Report channel. As far as final thoughts on this, I think it's absolutely disgusting. It's sick. It's evil. We must oppose this, but I agree with Miss Martin Muses. We can do that best by being local, saying our rosary every single day. It's our duty to do that, and I think that's what we should do. I try and do that. If you miss a day, say 2 the next day, and always make it to Mass on Sundays. We owe it to our Lord to do that, and owe it to celebrate his sacrifice that he gave for us, opening up the gates to heaven, allowing us to hopefully enter into eternal glory with him upon our death here in our voyage on this world. And there's lots of things that you can read to get into very different type of saints. Miss Martin Muse was talking about Saint Therese of Lisieux. I'm very fond of Saint Martin of Tours. He was a fighter. He was actually a Roman soldier, gave up his Roman commission, but continued the war against evil, going into pagan villages all throughout what we now call France, Gaul, and converting the pagans there. So I think he's a very good saint to look into. There's a really short biography on him that really is inspiring to read. So, but keep up the fight. They're showing us what they are. They're showing us how evil they are, and it makes it really easy for us to choose. I think God's making it very easy for us to choose Him over them, and we have to make that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for coming on the panel to talk about this, and it really means a lot. And hopefully, this does inspire several who were maybe unfaithful or had sort of fallen away and been lax in their faith to be reinvigorated and to fight against this mockery and degeneracy and evil, and to take back up with the Lord. And continue to pray, like everyone here has said. And with that, what we're going to close out tonight with, after I say to the chat once again, you are fantastic. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for being here, for sticking with us, for listening to this, for chiming in. I greatly appreciate all of the support, the love, and I understand that if you are as lost and as distressed about this as I am, it makes sense, and that's why you have to cling to Christ and crack open your Bibles, use the spiritual weapons that we have been provided with, our rosaries, our scapulars, our Bibles. Obviously, that's like the most obvious one. Your prayers, all of it. Keep fixated on Christ. Keep moving forward, and use this as fuel to continue fighting, not the discouragement that the enemy wants it to be. And on that note, we will end the same way we started the stream, with a Saint Michael the Archangel prayer. God bless all of you. Godspeed, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. We are protected against the wickedness and snares of the devil. Saint Michael, may God rebuke him. We humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, cast into hell